Hi Matthew. Okay, purpose of this video is just to give you an idea of what the texa equipment is capable of. Um, so I'm going to just give a sort of brief overview of what we're looking at, but also look at some of the vehicles that you've got in your fleet, and so you can at least see the sort of capability we can have. So the main screen you'll see, we're in all 5 different environments. Um, Car, truck, bike, off highway, which is your plant, your agri, industrial engines, and so on, and the marine side of things as well. So, what we'll start with, we'll go into truck. So, basically, what you're faced with is an A to Z list of all the makes that we can we can communicate with or we have information on. So, I'll scroll down this relatively slowly, but at least you can see, like I said to you in the email, we've got European, Asian, American, South American. I mean, the list is pretty endless, um, right down to the bottom there, down to the last one being Western Star. Okay, so just looking at some of the models you've got in your fleet. So if we're looking at the Mitsubishi, so on the right hand side here we've got an alphabetical list as well, so we can flick up to Mitsubishi Fuso. So we click on there. It was the Canter that you've got, 2014. Now I don't know which engine code you've got, but we'll just pick one at random, just at least so then we can sort of get an idea. Um, so what you're into is our main screen, which is a generic screen for all the makes and models that we do. So what you've got here is a global system scan. So basically it's scanning the whole CAN bus system, every ECU that is on the vehicle basically. Underneath that, you can see as I scroll down, you've got individual systems that we can potentially talk to. Now it will depend on the ECU and the model, but essentially these are the systems that we've got information on. So diesel injection, obviously we're looking at common rail, Euro 3, 4 and 5, and also 4 and 5. And you've mentioned it's DPF, so we'll be looking at the 4 and 5 on the CAN line, not on the older K line diagnosis. But we can also get into the ABS, the ADAS, which is your sort of cameras, radars, that type of thing, down to the airbag, and also down to the transmission. Again, it's an Aisin-Warner transmission, so we can talk to that as well. Now you'll see D's on here. That just means because I've got a demonstration kit, I can pretend to be communicating with the vehicle. So we will do that. But just to explain a few more things on the screen, you've got vehicle maintenance. So well, basically as part of the actions on the vehicles. So we click into vehicle maintenance, and there's a variety of service resets, DPF, regenerations, engine oil reset. You know, a lot of activations, but settings that we can carry out. So again, down into the braking system, we've got some bits and pieces there. Steering column, and again the transmission. We can do some bits and pieces on. So just going back one screen, back to the activations, which are the tests that you can carry out. So basically, when you're trying to work out what's wrong with the vehicle to help make your diagnosis, you can run certain tests. So for example, on the brakes, we can run accumulator pressure tests, turn on and off certain things, just so you can check continuity of circuits and so on. I mean, there's a hell of a lot listed here. Um, I'm going slowly, or I'm going reasonably quickly, sorry, because there's a hell of a lot there. But also down to the engine side of things, again, we've got air valve, again, all sorts of bits and pieces that we can, even down to sort of cylinder cut-off tests, dosing tests on the diesel exhaust fluid, which, yeah, same SCR AdBlue system. There's a lot of bits and pieces there. Again, also on EGR, because obviously they've all still got EGR on them as well. So I'll scroll back up on that. So there's a lot of tests we can carry out, and then we've got adjustments and coding. So there's less on here because obviously these are the things where you can actually do certain resets, such as lambda sensor adaptive value reset, NOx catalyst resets, again particulate filter regenerations in there, resetting SCR accumulators, turbocharger learning, again if you're replacing or changing the ECU. we've got the ability there to let the vehicle learn the new turbo or the new ECU. So again, there's a lot of bits and pieces in there. Now what we will do, just before we start communicating, I just want to show you on the left hand side where we've got wiring diagrams. Now again, depending on the make and model will determine how many wiring diagrams we have and the complexity of them, but generally if it's listed on the left hand side we will have some. We've also got technical data sheets, which are vehicle and system sheets. Will be a variety of things, some generic checks and things like that, but also specific sheets, maybe listing calibrations and certain things we can do. What you've also got here is technical data and checks, which is basically your almost like an auto data for truck. But we'll get to that in a sec. So what we'll do, we'll pretend to communicate with this vehicle. We'll choose a Euro 4 and 5 CAN line. Now I'll just click here into demo diagnosis. So we'll hit confirm on that. Just accept that. So what this will do is, like I said, it'll just pretend to be communicating with a vehicle. It'll populate it with a program that Texa have put together, just so we can view. Always quite useful when we're working remotely to be able to do this, otherwise it's quite difficult to explain how the system works. So what happens is we go straight into essentially the fault screen. Now what we've got here is it's thrown up a couple of faults that are pretending but active on the vehicle that we're potentially communicating on. So what you can see, it gives a reasonably decent description. It confirms it's an active fault. You might see a memory fault in there as well, historical faults, which obviously we can try and clear. You can double click those, or also click on the question mark here, which will give a bit of information. Okay, so this delete there, you have to execute the adjustments, diesel particulate filter data reset, and then DPF manual regen. So actually it's put us into a particulate matter accumulation basically. So it's reached its maximum, so we're going to have to do a regeneration. So what that'll do is obviously tell you what's going on. On a lot of occasions that will give you a fault code, or may give you also details as to when it happened, how many times it's happened, and so on. Now what we can do, we can print that, we can save it, we can try and erase it after we've carried out the fix. And like I said, there's also access to the technical documents. So for example, we've got system sheets. So this, for example, we've got DPF filter regeneration. So this gives you a bit of information about why, but also what you would see on the dash, and also how to carry out the regeneration. So there's a lot of technical information in the system to be able to help you understand the systems. At the end of the day, when you've got a multi-make fleet, it's impossible to know everything for each vehicle. So rather than relying on your friend at the dealer or so on to give you the information, the majority should be in here. As you can understand, there's a lot of different vehicles, and not all it takes a while for some of the information to reach. So as part of the Texa package, you get technical support. Now obviously with a few hours in front of you, but at the same time they're there not just on the phone, but also be able to remote into your system to have a look and see what you're looking at to help you diagnose the problem. Also we've got vehicle sheets. Again, these are quite generic but potentially quite useful, just talking about, on this particular one, pollutant emission limit values, introduction to CAN lines. So again, more information in there. We've also got wiring diagrams on this particular one. Now, there's a few options here. I'm just going to pick the top one just for an example. Now all of these wiring diagrams are done in-house at Texa. So you can see just from when I was scrolling across there, you're highlighting all the components that are on that particular system. Now obviously you've got your main ECU here, and what you can do is bring up the pin configuration, which, as you're well aware, that's different on every manufacturer. So again, that helps you determine which where the issue might be. You have a legend up here, which you can flick through all of the components in this particular diagram, and it will, if there is something available, give you either a picture. Basically that will take you to it and it will give you an image, just down here. So I'll give you a little image there, but we also have some which will have data cards. Potentially there's none on this particular diagram, so we'll have a look on this one just to see if there's any in there. No, on this particular one we've only got images, but when I show you a couple of the others there may be some data cards in there as well. You've also got wiring colours in there, which will again help you when you're investigating. And you've also, on a lot of these, you'll have component locations, although as you can see on this particular one, on many of the others, it does give a brief description as to where to look for that particular component. Again, you can print this or save it. So we'll just come back out of that. We'll look at those again for some of the other vehicles where there might be a better level of information. ECU info, it reads obviously what's on the ECU that it's communicating with, gives you a lot of information there, which again you can print for future if unfortunately the worst case scenario happens and the ECU gets fried. And again, back to the activations and the settings. So on this particular one, the screen we were looking at earlier, you had the list of all the potential tests that we can carry out. Now also what it will do is, if you look down here, there's again the question mark. So basically it will give you guidance as to how to carry out the activation. Again, for this, for example, so again it tells you instructions of how to carry it out. Setting wise, again, DPF regen again gives you information as to what you need to do, tells you what status the vehicle needs to be in to be able to carry it out. So you've got that ability there, and just down here you've got what's called Exchange Manager, which again is where we're changing ECUs, but that's a bit further down the line. Importantly, we've got the parameters. Now this is your live data, which you would see on each vehicle or machine that you're communicating with. So you can see we've got 87 parameters here that it's reading. It's a big long list, it just takes a little while to populate. But what it gives you is a unit of measure and also a detailed information on that sensor. Now what we can do is just double click that and it puts it into a graph format, so when you're looking at certain sensors it's a lot easier to see a peak and a trough rather than a change in number on the right hand side. Now again, you'll start to see more question marks on some of these because again, through experience you'll probably know whether a reading is maybe off or a bit spurious. So again, we're getting information into the system where it will actually tell you what that reading should be. So all quite useful. But what we also can do is filter that list, because obviously with 87 sensors to look at, there's quite a lot there. So what we'll do, we'll just reduce that list, just highlight some of the DPF sensors there, and yeah, that should do. So we'll click tick on there, and that will then give us again just a shorter list to work with. Now once we've done that, what you can also do is carry out a recording. You've got up to a 30-minute recording to carry out. So if there's a particular thing that happens at a certain state of the engine, you can at least take a recording, and again this can all be shown to the customer if you're doing any external work. So we'll just come back on that. Now there's a few other options on here, but I just want to give you the sort of the basic idea as to how the system works. So what we'll do, we'll just come back out of here, we'll just cancel the communication. What's important that I wanted to show you was the technical data and checks on the left hand side here. Now if we click into that, this is where we've got the mechanical data. So like I said, the auto data of the truck world essentially. So mechanical data wise, we're looking at how to identify the vehicle, the injection system, the cylinder layout. We've got tightening torques down here, so we'll just scroll down. That will give you all of the details, all the newton meters and necessary degrees that you need across the vehicle. So it's pretty in depth, even down to obviously the air conditioning, the types of connections, the type of refrigerant, and so on. You can see there's a lot of information in there. We'll just come back out of that. What you've also got, obviously, because it's like Autodata, you have tyre pressure readings, you have service illustrations. Again, just the basic sort of things that you'd need to learn or know. Cross out on that. We've also got checks and scheduled maintenance. So again, this is the ability for you to, on each service, be able to record everything you've done rather than having a paper service sheet. You can record everything electronically. So if we take, for example, the 90,000 mile main service, then brings up a list, we can then check everything that we've done, and then you're able to hit save here, and you can save that to the internal customer management system, which we would record for each of your vehicles. So again, very useful to have. So that's a sort of basic overview, certainly for the Mitsubishi. What I'd like to do now is just head to the Ford, the F50 or F550 that you have. So again, we head into here. Now the F550 is listed under the Super Duty, so we'll click into there. I'm not sure which engine you have, but again, I'll pick the 6.7. I think you mentioned 2015, so we'll click on there. So again, same format as we had with the Mitsubishi. Again, we have wiring diagrams, we've got technical data, and again, these are all the systems that we can potentially talk to. So you can see there's quite a few there as we scroll down. Okay, so again, just going up to adjustments and coding. Importantly, we've got a lot of bits and pieces we can do. Injector replacement, for example, or service counter reset. There's a lot of bits and pieces, and again, particular filter regeneration. So all this, similar abilities to what we had on the Mitsubishi. I won't go into this system again. You get the general idea when it comes to communicating. But what I wanted to do was, obviously, on the truck wise, you can see again the extensive list that we've got of each vehicle. What I'll do, I'll just come out of this. I want to just go into the off-highway side of things. You mentioned a case. As you can see, we've got agricultural vehicles, we've got construction vehicles and special vehicles, cranes and so on. We've got forklifts and telehandlers. We've got train, obviously not relevant for yourself, but we've also got industrial engines, which you would get as part of the package. So again, you can see for generators and so on, they are all in there as well. So there's a huge capability there for that. Just actually briefly, just going back into truck, back into diagnosis. This again just lists out what the categories that you're going to be able to work with. So we have truck, we have bus and coach, we have trailers and semi-trailers. So again, a lot for the sort of transport haulage industry, a lot of braking systems there you're going to be wanting to communicate with. We also have light trucks, which i.e. your vans. So again, your Nissan MV200s, your Toyota Dyners, those would all be listed in there. We've also got powertrain here, so again, brake and suspension systems. So this is where you're able to plug into the systems directly. Comfort systems, a lot of it auxiliary heating systems, for example. Again, engine wise, we've got that long list, and again, transmission wise, the big four again that we can talk to all of, basically. So just come back and we'll go back into off-highway again. So agriculturally wise, you can see again there's an extensive list of everything. So the other one you had listed was a New Holland, plenty in there, but you can see we've got JCB, John Deere, Kubota, Massey Ferguson, there's New Holland, and some other makes which we probably neither of us have heard of, but they're in there from around the world. Because Texas worldwide, we are covering a lot of bases. So we'll just head back up to the case IH. We've got Latin American market as well, but I'm not 100% sure which one you have, but we'll go into the case here, and we've got the different models. So we've got a Farmal series here, so we can click into there. Again, we're faced with a few options here. I will just pick one at random again because I'm not 100% sure what you have. There again, we have the vehicle code, so depending on the emissions level and so on. So we'll pick a tier 4 interim, for example. So again, on these, same format, you can see there's a lot fewer systems on the tractors, but again, four-wheel drive instrument panel, diesel injection. Obviously we've got a couple of options depending on which Bosch ECU we're after. Again, we have wiring diagrams, we have technical data, we've got technical data and checks. So we'll click into there. Again, we can make some more choices, and we've got yet again a lot of information, even when it comes down to cylinder head bolts, the patterns, and so on. So a lot of information in there. Lastly, I realise I'm running through this quite quickly, but to avoid too much, we'll head into the car side of things. Now, with the car, you get light trucks. That's the only crossover. So you'd have light trucks or vans in car and in truck. But what we'll do, we'll head to light truck, and we'll go and find the Nissan. So again, similarly, the long list of makes that we can speak to. So I click into Nissan. So again, we've got the NV200 down there. Depending on whether it's diesel or petrol, obviously we make a choice there. And again, we've got the same format, a few less systems on there, but we have the ability to talk to it. Lastly, well, obviously you've got a lot of Suzukis in there as well, Renault Captur, Toyota Hilux. The same format applies. So we'll head to Toyota, for example. You've got the Dyna there. You've got the Dyna 200. Now I wonder, that may be listed in the truck side of things because it's a larger vehicle. But again, we can click into these with the same ability. Just on the left hand side here, you've got pass through. So there's certain things that the manufacturer will only allow you to do if you sign up to their technical websites. Now, the system we have is pass-through enabled, so you have the ability to do that. You would have to pay additional costs to the manufacturer directly, but the system is pass-through enabled, so you can use this to carry out certain functions while through the manufacturer's portal, basically, or technical portal. One last one we'll look at is the car side of things, obviously quite important. So for example, we'll look at the Renault Captur. So we'll head down to Renault. So there's a Captur in there, 2013 onwards. Again, we've got a choice of a lot of different engines, but we'll click one at random. So again, that information is in there. We have technical data sheets here, vehicle data sheets for you to click through. So you can see the ability is there to certainly cover your fleet and also encourage outside work as and when you can find it, basically. So okay, all right, that's it for the video. Thank you.